Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of S&J CAFÉ. I'm Julia, and this is Sue.
Hello, everyone. Here at the S&J CAFE, we serve up sips and tips of inspiration, providing advice and guidance on career advancement for everyone. And we're so excited that you could join us this week.
So I've got some coffee in hand. Sue, what are you drinking today?
Got myself a nice tall glass of iced tea.
I heard it's a heat wave in New York City, and so iced tea there would be good. It's a little cool in Atlanta, so I'm sticking with my coffee.
Oh, well, it's exciting to be back in the studio again, Julia, and talking about what I think is an incredibly important topic, which is what to do after you've discovered that you're out of a job. So, we're talking about job loss that happens to you, not job loss that you make the decision to be a part of. And but the steps are somewhat the same, regardless of which approach you take.
So, for those who are with us today, feel free to chat and comment along the way, and we'll be able to share those and might comment with comment on your questions, answer them, etc. So, feel free to chat. This is an interactive session.
100%. And one of the things that we've discovered through our careers, helping people with job loss or experiencing job loss ourselves, is that uh, it's a very emotionally charged situation. And so it's really important that you take the time in the very beginning to calm the nervous system, uh, and to start to take care of yourself emotionally. It can be distressing, and we want to make sure that people are taking care of themselves before they start down this path or start on this journey. Wouldn't you agree, Julia?
Yeah, Sue, something that was really interesting. So many of the people watching may know I lost my job unexpectedly or semi unexpectedly about 6 weeks ago. And I went right into fight or flight mode. And some of it was opportunity timing. There was a big HR conference going on, talent acquisition conference going on in Las Vegas, right, right as I was getting laid off, and I booked a flight and got on a plane and went there to start networking. And what I realized, I went right into fight mode and problem solving mode. And people were asking me, what do I want to do next? And I was like, I don't know entirely, because I hadn't taken that time to take that emotional care of myself or to think about what my needs and wants are. And so I had to take a pause after that event to check in with myself.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to, if you think about the four fight or flight responses, fight is very much what you just described, which is I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do something, right? I'm not going to let this happen to me. I'm going to get right back on the horse. I'm going to figure this out, right? You come out swinging. Flight is like I'm 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 going to run for the hills, literally quick vacation, get out from the day to day, head somewhere else and not think about it at all. But there are also two lesser known fight or flight responses, which are freeze and fold. And so for some people, they get really stuck in like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. And if you're one of those, we're glad you're here. And then the last one is the fold, which are the people that can't really get out of bed, which is okay too. And just recognize it's natural. It's part of the shock of job loss. But there are methods and ways to deal with that fight or flight response to calm your nervous system down and get your executive functioning back up and start to take the steps that we're about to describe.
Is there, Sue, a quick maybe exercise that you've done that you think could be helpful for someone that might be stuck?
Yeah, there are a few different things that you can do. Exercise is definitely one of them for people that are exercise, meditation, people that are, I love walking meditations myself as a way to bring down that fight or flight. But there's also another technique, and it has to do with really just staying present, feeling a certain pulse point on your forehead. It sounds a little woo woo and out there. But if you were to visit susansquare.com and go to the resources page, there's an actual exercise on our website on how to calm the fight or flight autonomic response. And so, highly recommend that you go there if that's something that you're struggling with right now. But getting out in nature, forest bathing, as we like to call it, being amongst the trees, walking meditations. Those will also help you get out of that fight or flight and into the executive functioning mode that you want to be in.
Great, great. One of the other things that it stressed me out was the financial impacts
Hmm.
or potential financial impacts of job loss. Some people are blessed or lucky. Hate to say lucky when you talk about a job loss, where you get some sort of severance package.
Yeah.
And so that can be really helpful to people, but it doesn't necessarily reduce the amount of stress or anxiety someone might have around their financial situation. So it's really important early on for you to evaluate what your financial situation is and figure out how long you can last or how long you can cope with this income and financial disruption that's going on. It's been helpful to me to manage a budget. So I have put myself on a budget. I don't go to Starbucks as often as I used to, and make some choices on things that I might have done more freely before losing my job, to for me personally to try and stretch the severance that I have out, because I know it could take a while for me to find the right job that's the right job for me.
Well, and that's it, Julia. We want to be in a position that we can choose the next job and not feel forced into taking the first job that comes along. And we all know our financial planners suggest that we have 3 to 6 months of cushion in our bank at any given time. If you're like me, that's probably not a best practice that you've taken advantage of. And so it's not unusual to find yourself in a very stressed situation as it relates to how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to make ends meet? And one of the things that we'll talk about is how to structure your job search process so that you can get back to work as quickly as possible, and potentially look at things like contracting work and sort of other ways to make ends meet if your job search does perhaps take longer than you expected. So that's one of the things that we can touch on later in this episode or in a future episode, which is how to get creative around making ends meet when you're sort of between jobs.
There's a lot of YouTubers out there that have lots of interesting suggestions. My Facebook reels have been blowing up on that kind of information. I don't know how true or valid some of it is, but there's definitely a lot of creative ways out there to earn some extra cash if you're strapped.
Yeah, I think the great news is we are in a gig economy and companies are looking for, sort of fractional help or, sort of part-time help that will help them with specific things that you might a great, be able to add some great advice to. So that's definitely one thing to look at. I'd also share that I really think, and Julia, I think you would support this, that the most important thing after you've kind of taken care of yourself emotionally and you've figured out what you can afford financially is to take stock of where you're at in your career. An unexpected job loss can be an opportunity to make a change, or to take your career in a new direction if you weren't 100% happy with the work that you were doing already. And so getting that sort of like, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? Am I just looking for the next job that's very similar to what I've been doing in the past? Or am I looking to take my career in a different direction? And is now maybe the time that I can do it? Can I afford to financially? Maybe go back to school, or just, sort of recognize that it's possible to make a shift when these life opportunities present themselves.
It's pretty much the perfect time to be able to reinvent yourself, um, if you have that opportunity or drive or passion for it. The last time I was laid off was in 2010, so quite a long time ago. And I had left for a short stint, left talent acquisition and went over to communications, and was when I was at MetLife and worked in the internal communications group, and got laid off from there as part of reduction in force. And I really took stock because I was enjoying thoroughly the communications job. I really liked it. However, when it was time for me to go back into the marketplace, I only had 3 years of communications experience and many other years in talent acquisition. And at the time, I thought maybe I just want to be a recruiter again and become a senior recruiter somewhere. So I took a contract job. So that's something that some people might want to consider, especially right now. You may see more temp to perm opportunities or temp opportunities open. If there's something you've been wanting to try or have a little bit of experience in, try a temp job, a contract job doing that. I did a senior recruiter role and kept wanting to solve their recruiting problems, their process problems, and realized if I had to do phone screens day in and day out, I would be miserable. And so went back into that more strategic talent acquisition role. It was really beneficial for me to go through that exercise.
I think it's such a great example of, first off, um, you probably learn things in that communications job that you use in your current role, that has made you a more valuable VP and executive in what you're currently doing. And then the second thing is the chance to try things out, the chance to decide if something fits or not, and understand that the next gig doesn't have to be the perfect gig or the final gig. And so, sort of looking for those opportunities, being open to whatever might come along, and understand it doesn't have to be, sort of the be all and end all of what you're trying to do.
And I think something that's important for anyone to recognize, there is no such thing as a perfect job and there is no perfect company. So just temper everything you do with that. Is there's always flaws. People are flawed, companies are flawed. Accept that and you'll be much happier.
Yeah, and I think understanding the type of company that you want to work for, the size of company that you want to work for, the industry that you want to work in, the type of work that you want to do, right? Those are all open for, up for grabs. If you think of my career in high tech software, I've worked for all different types of startups. So seed startups, Series A startups, all the way up through, sort of public companies that then got acquired by mega companies. I've kind of done it all. And I know my favorite is the earlier stage startup. Now,
Mhm.
that's to say, if a great later stage company came along or a more mature company came along with the right opportunity, I would take it. But I really do gear myself towards that age and stage of company that is in the growth mode and needs a growth executive who can help them, sort of move up the ladder, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I did after I took that step back to assess and realized I still want to lead a talent acquisition function somewhere, I started working on my resume and preparing myself to be networking and being out there. And so it was really important. I worked with my CHRO from ComScope, because she was going to be sharing my resume with her network, and she had an idea of what she wanted to share. And so I completely revamped my resume, based on some of her preferences. Um, then I took that and revamped it yet again and have another new version of my resume. And then I was working with one of the outplacement agencies and got help from them on my resume. And I've shared it with a few important people in my network who I value their opinions on to make sure I'm um, putting my best foot forward. And then I think I've got a pretty well structured resume, and that for most of the jobs I've applied to, I have not needed to adjust it. But something that I've done in the past quite a bit has been to customize my resume based on some of the jobs I'm looking for. So if someone is looking for a little more of a DEI focus in their talent acquisition function, I might make sure that my DEI recruiting experience is front and center in my different sections on my resume. So I'll tweak those, but it's really been important for me to make sure that that it's updated, and I've kind of kept it updated. So every year at the end of the year at holiday time when things typically slow down, I will take a little time to update my resume to make it fresh so that I'm not caught off guard completely. I was caught off guard, but that I'm not starting from scratch, not having done a resume 10 years ago.
Well, you are a better woman than I am, Julia, because I'm the person that like never updates her resume and when the time comes. But what I do keep updated is my LinkedIn profile. And I actually just pretty much turned my LinkedIn profile into my resume, and I use that as my starting point. I also have a very good friend who used a professional resume writer to help her when she was getting back into the job market after a long time of being employed. And I'm a big fan of resume writers because I don't think we can sell ourselves as well as other people can help us sell ourselves. And I think that's why it's great that your CHRO did that with you as well. So, but sort of keep your LinkedIn updated. And if you haven't kept your LinkedIn updated, get your LinkedIn updated to reflect all the work that you've been doing and then all the results you've been getting in the work that you've been doing. And then ask people for endorsements on LinkedIn because they go a long way. And then, Julia, you mentioned something about leveraging your network's network. We talked about this on our last episode, but it's the most important thing, which is let your network know that you're in the market, that you're looking for a job, and be as explicit as possible about what it is you're trying to do.
I do think that's so important. And that started out with me going to that event and sharing with everyone there, hey,
Yeah.
I just lost my job. I'm looking. Here's what I'm looking for. And just every conversation I have with people, that's part of my narrative. But I'm also, here's what I've done for companies. So it's not just I'm looking for a head of talent acquisition job, but I modernized the talent acquisition function at CommScope, right? I want to talk about how I solved a problem that most companies have. And so that's something to think about as you're networking and you're talking with people, is understanding what kinds of problems do companies have that hire someone like you, someone in your type of job.
So here's a question, which is, you know, we're one of the things we want to do here at S&J CAFÉ is keep it real and make it a safe space for people to come and talk about what they're trying to accomplish in their careers and how, sort of how to move forward in their careers. Julia, how difficult or uncomfortable was it for you to go to that conference and tell people that you had just lost your job and that you were out looking for another job? And I know it's a range for everybody. For some people, it's like, hey, life happens. This has nothing to do with me and my ability. This is the market and this is what happened. And for others, it's like a deeply shameful thing that, that they don't want to tell people that they've lost their job. A lot of people will hide it even from friends and family that
Yeah.
they've been a part of something like this. Where were you at in your job search in those moments after it happened?
It there was this little bit of like, what did I do wrong? Or did I do something wrong? So there was a moment of that. Like, it does take a hit to your ego.
Right.
But in my situation, it was, I didn't lose the job because of poor performance or something about me. I had a story that I could tell about the situation. So, in with ComScope, the rec volume went down. I mean, there's the stock is underperforming right now. There were definitely financial signals going on within the company that necessitated the need for the recruiting team to be cut as deep as it was. And so that was a narrative that I could talk about with people, is just the companies having financial constraints and needed to take some drastic measures. And our requisition volume went from 700 to 100 and was staying that way. So I had a narrative that people could understand and talk to. Now, back 10 years ago with MetLife, I was working in a communications group. There was a change in the management, the leadership, and I was not a journalism major. And the person coming in wanted to bring in people from another company, and I got let go because I was an HR person, a psychology major, counseling major, not a communications journalist professional by school and trade. And so even then, I had a way to talk about that aspect of things. And people would ask me, why did you make the career change from talent acquisition to communications? And I just developed that storyline so that I knew how to eloquently discuss it with people. And I think that if you take the time to assess your situation, write up a couple speaking points, get comfortable with that so it's part of your elevator pitch that you can speak more naturally, that's really helpful in those situations. But it's really important that you don't have to have on your LinkedIn profile open to work. I didn't do that. Now, I in LinkedIn put in open to work, but then it just says for only recruiters. And
Okay.
so there is a way in LinkedIn to set that up where it wasn't a flashing light necessarily for everyone to see, but recruiters who use the LinkedIn recruiter tool can see that I'm open to work. And so that was kind of how I balanced maybe not putting it up in flashing lights, but I've done several posts about it, spoken very openly about it, to help others and potentially, help me get a new opportunity.
And it's such an interesting thing, that authentic sharing of yourself on LinkedIn is the reason we're here together today, right?
Hmm.
Hey, this happened to me. I will be looking for work going forward. If you know of anyone looking for a head of talent acquisition, I'm open to conversations. However you put it, I can't remember now. I was like, oh, Julia, we need to reach out. We need to reconnect. And I want to help. And in whatever way my network could help you find your next job. So um, you know, the whole like, I'm just, hey, network, hire me, that is not going to work. But an authentic post about your situation absolutely will. We've only got a few minutes left, and I think we're down to item number 6 on the 6 things to do after job loss. No, we got 2 more to go. One is expand your professional network. And we've been talking about that already, right? Which is, you might not get a job through your existing network, but you're often going to get a chance at a job through your network's network. So, how do you turn your network into a source of introductions for you? And a great example is when Julie and I did finally connect and we talked about what she was looking for and where you wanted to go with your career. I looked through my list of contacts that aligned with the type of company and the type of work that you wanted to do. So that was part of, sort of how could I help you and introduce you to people in my network that you might not have had in your network? And I'm sure you've done the same for others who have gone, sort of looking for their next job.
Yep. And then something else really important when you're using LinkedIn and if you're applying for jobs on LinkedIn, you can see your network at, you can see who you're connected with at that company, and then you can see your second degree connections and who knows them. So use your network and ask for help, ask for introductions. It's a great way to try and make a connection at one of your target companies.
And go to industry events that are relevant to the type of work that you want to do. So, your trip to Vegas is a great example. That same conference, I invited a good friend of mine who had just left his job, hadn't lost his job, but he had left his job and was going to be looking for work, to come down and network as well. Because reconnecting with people that you know in the industry or making new connections with people is one of the top ways, sort of to network your way into the next job.
That's really important. And then one of the last things, although we do have a 6B, I think, but number 6 is around the professional development opportunities. So when you're out of work and you're interviewing and someone asks you, what have you been doing during this time off? Yes, you could say you're traveling or you've been job hunting. But if you can talk about any conferences you went to or skills that you've learned over the time that you're out of work, being able to upskill yourself can be really helpful and beneficial for your interview process, or to help you get into maybe a job or industry that you haven't been into before.
There are so many self-learning things that you can do, and sort of AI is so hot right now that anything you could do to learn a little bit about technology or about AI, about different tools that you're interested in, soft skills that you're interested in, anything that will help you progress in your career, uh, and help you land that next job that you're looking for. I'm going to leave the last one to you, Julia, because I think it's really something that you've been leading from the front with. And I'll leave it to you to kind of take us back to the beginning and wrap things up.
Yeah, I think it's just really important to make sure that you take time for yourself, engage in activities that make you happy, um, so that you can show up during the interviews and show up for yourself during this process. So I've been working out on my Peloton and my tonal. Sue and I started this little adventure in helping others because it brings me joy to help other people that are looking for work, and teaching them through some of the skills that I've learned on the job leading TA, but also through my own experiences with job loss and job hunting. And so I think it's just really important for everyone to remember, if you've lost your job, that this is a temporary setback, that you want to try and stay proactive, stay positive, and stay focused. And that'll help lead you to new possibilities.
Yeah, and a lot of people tell you to treat your job search like a job, and I'm going to say do not treat your job search like a job. Treat this time like a special moment in life where you get to do some of your favorite things, and also take time to look for a job and to network and to have conversations with people. When I left my corporate executive role and did a pivot into being self-employed while taking care of my aging dad, one of the things that I set as myself a goal for myself was 3 conversations a week. That's it. I just wanted to connect with and have 3 conversations a week. And that would tell me that I was doing enough to stay active and engaged. But I also spent a lot of time with my dad doing stuff to take care of myself, and doing things that I'd let go for a long time. So use this time to do things you really love to do, and don't just be like all about work when it comes to finding your next job.
I totally agree with that.
Excellent. Well, it's been wonderful to spend a half hour and a nice glass of iced tea with you today, Julia. I hope everybody got great value out of this episode. We look forward to coming back to you in a couple of weeks. Join us anytime for support during this process. And we'll take ideas and questions from the LinkedIn community and other live communities about what you want to hear from us next, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Julia. Have a great day.
Bye.